This is the story of how I finally found the ghost of the Westfjords. Are you allowed to swear on YouTube? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back to Where's the Arctic Fox? Last time I was bombing through Icelandic rivers and being laughed at for not finding any foxes. Rude. If you missed episode 3, it's the last one, then I've left the link in the description. I don't know how to do it. I will do that. I'll put it in there. Fast forward a year. Everything was about to change. So I'd found the polar bear, number 1. Done, complete. Episode 1, success. Then I found the killer whale. Again, another huge success. Slightly more dangerous, a bit more sketchy. Got stranded out at sea. Then I went to try and find the fox last year in summer, and I completely failed. I traveled around for weeks in Iceland trying to find this damn fox. Didn't find it. Hence the name of this series, Where's the Arctic Fox? Fast forward to 2025, 3 weeks ago. Don't know when you're watching this, but that's your problem. And we begin the story again. So my pals Baldwin, Devin, and Leroy had made it their personal mission to help me find and photograph this elusive Arctic fox. I was about to embark on the most Icelandic adventure yet. And by that, I am covering 2 points. The first one is the Icelandic people have a phrase called "þetta redast," which kind of translates to everything's gonna work out. But it's more than just a phrase, which is what I realize now. It's like a mindset that you have to succumb to and believe in for it to work. And I'm like an early child and a bit of a control freak. So this trip definitely had some mental challenges I had to overcome and just go with the flow, which is tough for me. Secondly, the Icelandic community is tiny compared to the rest of the world. You know, everyone knows everyone. Everyone's maybe slightly related in not a weird way. I needed to tap into this network somehow to make this year-long mission a success. I had to find the Arctic fox. I had to, okay? Because I told my mum I was going to find the fox. Stop swearing. Where's the Arctic fox? Enter Baldwin, male chum from episode 3 with his beast Land Cruiser. He's actually one of Iceland's top Northern Lights guides. And he runs a company called Unreal Iceland along with some guys called Savar, Devin, and Leroy, all equally equidistant on the legend scale. On one of Baldwin's tours, back last winter, he met another Aurora guide by the name of Hesteyri, which is a very difficult name for me to pronounce, but essentially it translates to hawk. This guy's name was Hawk. Imagine that. What's up, man? My name's Hawk. My name's Dave. What are you talking about? He was a legend. He was a drummer. He lived in and owned businesses in Thailand. He can captain any boat on Earth, anything. He also has a pilot's license. This guy just didn't seem real. He was a real character. And he just so happened to also own a boat company that takes people over to Hornstrandir. You might remember that Hornstrandir is at the top of the Westfjords. It's where I tried to go last time to find Arctic foxes and failed. And it's one of Europe's last actual wildernesses, you know, completely cut off from civilization. There's no phone reception, there's nothing there. It's supposed to be a haven for Arctic foxes. It also just so happened that this was the very same guy that had taken me over the year previously. Iceland's such a small world. I was like, I know this guy. So we finally had a way to get back to the fox haven that had yielded no results the year before. Was this going to be the time? I don't know. So it was settled. Myself and the Unreal gang, we met in Reykjavik. We packed up the Land Cruiser and headed north. No idea where we were going except north. So we just headed north. All my other trips were meticulously planned, you know, down to the T, but this was different. Maybe that was what was needed, though, to find a fox. It was different from last time. Maybe this was the time. So I went with it. The drive took us through some epic locations, mountain backdrops, some really sketchy roads. We passed these giant waterfalls, colonies of puffins. 6 or 7 hours later, we received a call from Mr. Hawk. He gave us his address, and he said he'd just put the grill on and the beers were cold. And we were just relieved, you know. It was such an example of Icelandic hospitality. Generous, warm, welcoming, last minute as balls. And he welcomed us with open arms, literally, and we were able to stay with his family in the town of Bolungarvík, a tiny little fishing village, the westerlymost town in Iceland. And the next day we were scheduled to be on his boat at 9 a.m. to head over to Hesteyri on Hornstrandir. I still had so many questions. Where were we staying on Hornstrandir? Did I need a tent? Did we need to bring food? How much, what supplies do we need? Survival gear? Do we need a satellite radio? I had no idea. What's more, the weather was supposed to be trash. The prospect of getting on the boat in these crazy winds was really making me nervous. The guy's so casual. As we left, his wife said, good luck. I was like, do we need luck? And he was like, yeah, you always need luck on this crossing. So that was grim. Anyway, so we get on the boat at 9 a.m. It's full of Icelandic cool people. The low clouds were clinging to the craggy mountains that surrounded the fjord, and we still had no idea where we were staying. An hour later, we arrived on the reserve, still no idea where we were staying. I knew that there was a place called the Old Doctor's House that kind of had dorm-style rooms upstairs above this cafe which only serves pancakes and coffee. But this was going to be fully booked, surely. You know, it's such a popular place for nature dweebs to go. Other than that, there was like a rough kind of campsite around there, but we didn't have a tent. It turns out that Hawk's family had grown up in Hesteyri. His father and grandfather had been based there. Turns out that Hawk's family owned that doctor's house, and that his brother, a name I cannot pronounce, Rolfer, let's call him Oliver, was the guy that ran that accommodation. So we turned up, literally a wheelbarrow full of luggage, and we were told we could take the dorm upstairs, and that we would be fed breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is an example of Hesteyri. We had a base, we had 2 days to find the fox. But what I didn't know before was that the foxes in this particular area rely mainly on seafood that washes up on shore for their diet. They also eat baby birds and eggs and stuff, but they knew that they would always find food at low tide. So now I had something to go by. Now I had parameters within which to find the foxes. The doctor's house guy, Oliver, was a really keen musician, and we had a little jam with him on some like really obscure Icelandic instruments. You could see how happy he was to be playing with guests, and we kind of bought some favor with him through that. He told us that there was a fox den up at the Elf Church. I was like, excuse me, bruv, what are you talking about, Elf Church? And he pointed up to this rocky crag just north of where we were staying. It looked really ominous, low clouds, like spiky rocks. And he told us the fox often used the path next to the doctor's house to get to the shore, which was meters away from us. So this was exciting news. I finally had a time, I had tidal parameters, as well as a potential direction the foxes would be going. This was seeming good. So I set up a trail camera, and then we decided to go out for an explore. We found some seals, found some eider ducks, Icelandic classics, a loon called across the fjord. But no foxes. Lots of fox poop. When we got back, first thing I did was check the footage on the trail camera, and we were right. Foxes were just in front of the house. I checked the timestamp on the footage, and this had just happened 20 minutes ago, so we had missed the fox by a whisper. Again, I was gutted. So we were having dinner. It was delicious, some sort of cod thing. And then we heard a shout. The chef had just seen a fox out of the window. I had my camera literally by my side like this, and I jumped up and I ran to the window. I couldn't see anything. And then suddenly I saw a rustling in the bushes. I went outside, opening the back door super quietly. Me. And I lay down on the deck. It was 10 p.m, but there was still light because we were so far north and it's in summer. The sun wouldn't set all night. Everything was silent. I could hear the trickle of the river next to us. I wasn't even breathing, I don't think. And then the fox suddenly just burst out of the purple geraniums in front of my face and stopped right in front of me. We locked eyes. It was almost as if he'd been searching a year to find me as much as I'd been trying to find him. From then on, we just had endless fox sighting. I had broken the wall, I had crossed into Foxland, we realized finally we were seeing two different foxes. One had like a strange lump on its lip, and we realized that these were a breeding pair. They were coming back and forth from the den up at the elf church. Remember the elf church just over there, bringing food with them back and forth. So they must have had newly born pups up there in the den, probably still too small to venture out for themselves. But for 48 hours, I got to be a part of their world, silent, hidden, full of wonder. After 12 months, 3 countries, 2 failed attempts, I had finally found the Arctic fox. Or maybe they had found me. Dramatic. And in the end, it wasn't even about the photo, which was sick, by the way, thank you for asking, or the checklist of these apex predators, or even the story. It was just about learning to let go, trust strangers in a good way, and follow strange Icelandic men called Hawk into the fog, who's now a really good friend of mine. Coming up soon, I'm going to be following the journey of an Icelandic photographer as she fulfills her dream shot free diving in a freezing super glacial lake. So hit the subscribe and the bell end button, and we'll see you then. Well, where's the actual fox? We found it. He's over there. Complete. I think that's it.
Hell yeah.
That was better than I thought. I should write scripts and attack tomorrow.
That was very good.
Fuck.